So about 4 years ago, I was pretty fat. And then for the very first time, I decided that I was gonna start lifting weights. It was one of the best decisions I had ever made. During this time, I decided that I wanted to bulk because I wanted to get as muscular as possible. So I started eating tons of food. I mean, a lot of food. And the reason why I was eating so much is because I thought that the more food that I ate directly correlated with the amount of muscle mass that I was gonna gain. And I was watching the scale go up and up and up. And to me, this just meant that I was gaining more and more muscle, till eventually, once school started again, I was about 200 pounds. At this point, I had become really fat. And that's when it suddenly hit me that the super bulk might have gone just a little bit too far. I'm 5'8", by the way, guys. 200 pounds is just a little bit too hefty for my size. And just so you guys know, at this point in time, I was probably eating upwards of anywhere from 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day. At my size, I probably only really need about 2,500 calories. But I basically just figured that the more food that I could get into my body, the more muscle mass that I would gain. And once I had gotten to this point, I had already realized that I was pretty far gone and that if I wanted to get lean and aesthetic, I was gonna need to lose a lot of body fat. So I made the decision to go on my very first cut ever. I decided that I wanted to get lean and lose the extra body fat and finally get the physique that I wanted. The only problem is I didn't know how to lose weight at all. So I was in this position where I decided that I wanted to get lean, but I had no idea how to do it. And that's where one of the main problems came into effect. I had reached what we call a plateau. And a plateau, if you don't know, is basically when you stop making progress in the gym. And the reason why I'd hit this plateau is because I was no longer eating a bunch of calories to the point where I was just putting on a bunch of body fat and muscle at the same time like I was when I was bulking, but I also wasn't in a consistent deficit long enough to actually be losing weight. So I was really just spinning my wheels for a long time. And then the other part of that too is I was in college hanging out with a lot of people who like to drink and party, and so I just wasn't in a consistent regimen for a long enough period of time to see any real results. So I was in this position where I was dieting during the weekday and I was meal prepping and doing the right stuff, and then come the weekend I would go out with my friends, drink a bunch of alcohol, and go eat a bunch of fast food and completely undo all of my progress that I had made. And unfortunately, I started becoming notorious as the meathead gym bro who was always on a perma-bulk. And I remember specifically one of my roommates was talking about me and said, "Oh, Alex is always gonna be muscular, but he doesn't have the shreds." And he was just joking at the time, but I kind of took it to heart because I was like, oh dude, I actually do want to be shredded and get lean. I don't want to just be perma bulking. And this cycle continued for a while until eventually I had one big change. During my senior year of college, I had a little bit of a heartbreak. And for those of you who've never experienced a heartbreak, one thing that I noticed was a decreased appetite. I wasn't eating as much, and in a weird kind of way, this actually really kickstarted my first genuine true cut. Now the breakup wasn't that serious or anything, but what it did do was it got me to a point where I actually started to see the visible effects of getting lean. And I was like, holy crap, I'm starting to look a little bit leaner. So I played into that momentum and I kept the streak going. And throughout that time, I lost a lot of weight, a lot of water weight, and a lot of body fat as well. And I started to be able to see some things that I had never seen before, things like striations in my arms or striations even in my ab area. And the best part about all of that is that I actually didn't lose any strength in the gym. If anything, I was hitting PRs. I was getting actively stronger. So what that told me is that I was losing body fat and gaining muscle at the same exact time. And as I continued to get leaner and leaner, I started to realize that I was getting more attention from girls. People were treating me a little bit different. And that's when it hit me. It wasn't about adding as much muscle as possible. It wasn't about being the biggest guy in the room. What really happened was I had just a little bit of muscle on me that I had gained from my bulk, but primarily it was just about being aesthetic and having a good physique from being lean enough. And that was a really important lesson for me. It's probably the reason why I'll never go on a dedicated bulk again, why I just choose to opt to slowly main gain over time, which really leads me into the very first tip that I have for you if you're trying to glow up in 2025, which is get a little bit of muscle on your frame, but mostly get lean. Now keep in mind, this advice is really gonna be for people who are in the same position as me, who are either skinny fat or just generally overweight. If you're already underweight, I would not recommend going on a cut, obviously. But it's likely that if you clicked on this video, you're somebody who might be either skinny fat or a little overweight. And if that's the case, one of the best things you can do to help yourself glow up is just get to a healthy body fat percentage. Now, a lot of people, when they hear me say that you should get lean, will automatically think that you need to drop into a huge cut and be in a giant calorie deficit. That's actually not the case, especially if you're someone who doesn't work out or lift weights already. I have great news for you. You really don't need to go on a big cut. What you can do is eat about at maintenance calories, but if you simply just add in weightlifting to your routine, then even though you're not in a giant calorie deficit and you're not in a dedicated cut, you'll notice that you'll still be able to lose some body fat and gain some muscle at the same time. Kind of like what I did. And if you're what's known as a newbie to the gym, meaning that this is your very first time weightlifting, then if you just eat at maintenance calories, you'll be able to see tons of gains while still losing body fat at the same time. You don't need to go into an aggressive cut. I think eating at maintenance calories is a really valuable tool. And if you're new to the gym, eating at maintenance calories will allow your body to really utilize extra resources and dedicate that to building muscle. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer. Just because I'm telling you not to go on an aggressive dedicated cut also doesn't mean that I'm telling you to go on an aggressive dedicated bulk. I know there might be some people out there who said, oh, Alex said that I don't need a cut. That means I'm going to bulk. I don't recommend that either, buddy, unless you want to go down the route that I did and end up with the physique that I had that took me a long time to get rid of all that body fat. Again, what I'd recommend doing is main gaining, eating at about maintenance calories while also taking advantage of your newbie gains at the gym. And if you're unfamiliar with the term newbie gains means, it's just the initial gains that you'll get from the first 6 months to 1 year of lifting. If you're unfamiliar with how it works, the quickest amount of muscle that your body puts on when you're weightlifting is actually the very first 6 months to 1 year as a natural lifter. So we really want to take advantage of that time. And ultimately, if you do this the right way, eating at maintenance calories while weightlifting consistently about 3 to 5 times a week, within about the first year, you'll be able to successfully accomplish a body recomposition. A body recomposition is pretty much the best thing you can do for yourself if you want to glow up in 2025. And what that just means is that you're able to lower your body fat percentage while also increasing your muscle mass. And this is a really exciting time too, because you're going to be able to see visible changes pretty quickly. You're gonna go in the mirror in the morning and you're gonna be able to see, oh look, I got a muscle. Look, my chest is a little bit bigger. Look, I'm getting some stretch marks. It's really exciting. But the other part that's important too is just continuing the consistency too. What we don't wanna do is waste our newbie gains while we're being inconsistent in the gym, because ultimately that's just gonna lead to the problem that I had, which is just where you spin your wheels for a long time. And by the way, guys, that's the whole point of this channel, because I was able to make a transformation that took me a long time. It took me several years. And a lot of the reason why it took me so long is because I just made so many mistakes along the way. So what I thought is, if I can just tell people exactly how I went from point A to point B without all the fluff in between, then I can fast track you to where I got way quicker than it took me. And that's actually the whole point of the course that I created. If you go down into the description of this video, there is a link to my course called The Beachbody. And the whole point of that was to get you to where I am right now as quickly as possible, literally a step-by-step plan. So go check that out if you want. Now, you hear a lot of these terms getting thrown around a lot, like bulking, cutting, main gaining, calorie deficit, calorie surplus. But I think that the biggest change that you can make today, if you really want to fix your physique and successfully accomplish a body recomp, is going to be actually switching the quality of your diet. Now, just honest question for you. What does your diet actually look like? For me, when I first started, my diet looked like a lot of processed food. It looked like heavy drinking on the weekend. It looked like fast food and tons of sugar. And by simply switching this out for a whole foods, animal-based diet, we can completely reinvent your body pretty instantaneously. You're gonna notice as soon as you stop eating that stuff that you feel way better, your body is way more fueled, and you'll gain quite a bit of muscle and start to look way better. And that's the other tip I have too, is prioritize a high protein diet too, which will happen naturally with an animal-based diet. You should be eating a lot of things that your ancestors would have eaten hundreds to thousands of years ago. Things like red meat, eggs, dairy, fruit, that kind of stuff. Just good food with lots of nutritional value. And that's pretty cool too, because this also leads me into the other part of the glow up, is that it's not only gonna help fix your physique, but it's actually gonna help things like clearing up your skin. If you have acne, a lot of acne can be related to your gut microbiome, which is a really important thing. That can be a whole nother video. And what I recommend is getting about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So for instance, I'm 163 pounds. That means that I want to shoot for about 163 grams of protein every day. Now, the next simple tip that I would offer you to glow up this year is to fix your sleep schedule. Boys, this is going to be like one of the biggest things that you can do that that not enough people talk about and there's just not enough emphasis on. And I know that you've heard it before, oh, make sure you get your 8 hours, but guys, that's not just a piece of advice to throw around there. That is like a serious prescription that we all should be doing, because the difference between getting 5 to 6 hours versus 8 to 9 hours is literally the difference of being on like a mild steroid cycle. I'm not even kidding you. Sleep, in my opinion, is basically like a natural steroid. So if you're trying to gain muscle, if you're trying to look better, and most importantly, if you just want to feel good and have a high quality of life, getting about 8 hours of sleep every single night is super important. And not only that, make sure that you have a consistent sleep and wake schedule. That means that you're going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time every single day, because this is what's gonna set what's known as your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is basically your body's internal clock that allows it to know when to release certain hormones so that you can get sleepy or so that you can be awake. The issue is if you're going to bed and waking up at different times every single day, your body has no internal clock to be able to know when to release certain hormones to either wake you up or make you sleepy. And then the last tip that I could offer you guys to be able to glow up is make sure that you're surrounding yourself with a very good social circle. And just like the sleep advice, I think that this advice is thrown around there but not taken as seriously as it should. If you've ever heard the saying that you're a product of the 5 people that you hang around the most, well, I think that that's absolutely the truth. So ask yourself, what does your friend circle look like? Are you hanging around people who are lifting you up and encouraging you to do better? Or are you hanging around people who are dragging you back into old habits and keeping you stuck in a place where you don't want to be? And I know that this is a hard conversation to have with yourself, but it's true. If you want to be the best version of yourself in 2025, if you want to glow up this year, you need to surround yourself with people who are also going to make you better as well. And take it from me, guys, I have been in that situation where I've been around people who don't have my best interest at heart and just are on different life paths than me. And honestly, it's funny, as I'm recording this right now, it feels kind of like I'm having a conversation with my younger self, because I know how difficult it was to be honest with myself and really have to move on from those relationships, because you have all these really good memories with them. You know, in your head, they're your friends, but the issue is that if you let this go on for too long, it will start to impact your life, it'll start to impact your mindset, and overall it'll just impact your true trajectory in being able to achieve your goals. So I know it's easier said than done, but evaluate your friend groups and make sure you're hanging around people that are genuinely lifting you up. And then the last thing I would offer for you guys is, if you're looking to glow up in 2025, pick up a new habit and develop a new skill. It doesn't really matter what that skill is, it doesn't really matter what that habit is, but I think generally being specialized in any sort of skill, being better at one thing than pretty much everybody else, which is known as specialization, is an attractive thing. So for me, I started playing guitar a couple years ago. I started weightlifting, obviously. I got into sales. And I just started to develop certain skills that I thought would be helpful, but also that I knew that I could get better at over time. And that's the whole point, is if you just consistently stick with it and have discipline, you notice that these skills just start to become integrated into who you are. So that is it for today's video. I hope that this helped you if you're trying to glow up this year. Just stay consistent, stay disciplined. And like I said, if you're looking to get an easy plan, go check out the Beachbody in the description down below. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.